Welcome to Inspired Sundays for the weekend of October 30th through November 1st. I'm Shane Stuber with the Trilogy Foundation. You know, all this week, I've still been pondering on last week's message around the power of our words. And when we really pay attention to our words and think about the very positive impact they can have on others, well, I guess to me, it's both inspiring and maybe a little daunting. But it ties very well into this week's message. And it comes to us from pastor and chaplain Dan Dykstra. And Dan this week gives us a parable about how change and growth happen, especially when we truly care. And to me, I think caring comes down to character. Billy Graham said this about character. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. When character is lost, all is lost. Enjoy this week's message from Pastor Dan Dykstra.
Hello, I'm the Reverend Dan Dykstra, one of the deacons at St. George's Episcopal Church, right here in Louisville, Kentucky. I also serve as a second-year chaplain resident for Norton Healthcare, focusing on palliative care. I was very delighted to get this opportunity to speak with you here at Trilogy. As a chaplain, I understand the challenges of caring for our elderly patients during a pandemic, when isolation precautions and strict visitation policies have become the norm. I'm grateful, truly, that organizations like Trilogy and Norton continue their commitment to provide excellent services, compassionately and creatively offered for our very most vulnerable population. For those of you familiar with Christian scriptures, the Gospels offer a story about an encounter with Jesus along the road to Emmaus. I offer today a modern-day version of the story that all people, regardless of religious affiliation, can appreciate because it speaks to what it means to care deeply for one another. Such care is the undergirding foundation of all of us who commit our lives to providing care services for others. And so my story. Two men walk along the road on the way to the grocery store. "Can you believe all this?" says the first man, John. "I mean, this is crazy. I only get out to walk to the store to get food. Otherwise, I pretty much just sit or work in the yard." "Yeah, I know what you mean," says the second man, Sam. "And who knows how long this will go on." Just then, a third man appears from a side street to join the first two in walking toward the store. He's wearing a mask and keeps his distance from the first two, but does engage them in conversation. "How are you two?" he asks. "Really?" says Sam. "Do you really need to ask?" "Awful. That's how we are. As is most everybody else. Shoot. Derby had no fans." The third man asks, "What has caused all this discontent?" And John and Sam look at him as if he has two heads. "Coronavirus, of course," say both men in unison. "Where have you been?" They then proceed to pour out all their concerns regarding today's global pandemic and accompanying panic. Things this third man already knows fully, as evidenced by the mask he wears and the distance he maintains. But these characteristics John and Sam miss on account of their preoccupation with themselves and their personal concerns. There is some good news, though, says John. Some governors are saying they will completely open up their economies soon. Maybe we can finally return to normal. And that is the good news? Asks the third man. That things will return to normal? Have things been all that good that you want only to return to them? Have you never hungered for something more? As long as I can get back to U of L basketball and football games and spend my nights, my Friday nights that is, partying with friends in local bars, I'm good. I'll take that over what I'm dealing with today in a heartbeat, says John. Sounds good to me, John. What more could we expect? Asks Sam. And the third man offers another vision, one that intrigues both John and Sam. Arriving at the grocery, the third man appears as if he's about to just walk on by, past the store. And Sam said, "Hey, aren't you going in? Come on, we're getting food for dinner. Want to come along with us? We want to hear more." Third man changes course and goes along with the two. Inside the store, John and Sam begin to shop, and they grow irritated that so many items they wanted to buy are sold out. Time passes, they get all they can, then head to the checkout. Checkout lady smiles at them and asks if they got everything they came for. And John and Sam grumble and say that they did not. John asks, "Why don't you stock up more often?" Just then, Sam notices the third man who had become separated from them shortly after entering the store. He's talking with a haggard-looking security guard, the guy who has to coordinate the number of people allowed in the building at any one time. The third man is praising him, encouraging him to continue the good and important work of keeping people safe. "That'll be $93.36, says the checkout lady. John and Sam turn to look at her and pay their bill. And when they turn back toward that third man, he has vanished. Are we not all walking that road to the grocery? Are we not talking incessantly about the current happenings in our world and how they affect us? Are we not all hopeful for things to return to how they were so we need no longer suffer with how they are? Can we see no further? Have we no deeper expectations, no more profound hope? Things will change. Things will be different. As described in an article by John MacDonald, after the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, public officials recognized that closely packed urban housing was contributing to the spread of disease, and subsequent legislation addressed the issue. In the 1930s, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal required all apartments to have fire escapes, main hallways that were at least 3 feet wide, and separate bathrooms. Social distancing even had an impact on fashion. Crinoline within women's dresses provided much needed distancing from men. It could be found in the hoop skirts popular in the 19th century. This was due in part to social norms, but it also helped women to avoid contracting fatal diseases. One of the greatest advances of modern era was the recognition that diseases could be caused by pathogens and that poor sanitary conditions were a prime culprit in the spread of disease. Sanitary engineers in the 19th century were in the forefront of the development of sanitary sewer systems that protected the public from epidemics of cholera and other waterborne illnesses. My point, things change. We grow and address the challenges we experience in life. When? When we care. When we care. And it is part of our makeup, I believe, as human beings, when we are true to our deepest selves, to care. What made that third man in our story different from the others? He cared. He wore his mask. He kept his distance. He encouraged the grocery store security guard, not because he ascribed to a particular political viewpoint, but because he cared about the people around him. And ultimately, that is what healthcare professionals and all the people they serve are called to do. We all, as human beings, made in the image of God, are called to do, to care. And because we care, we will get through this. And as we do, we will become part of a new world, a post-pandemic world, a world changed forever. Amen. Thank you so much for letting me have this time with you all. And may God bless you, now and always.
I want to thank Pastor and Chaplain Dan Dykstra for delivering this great parable this week on care and how change and growth emanate from caring for others. Here's my prayer for us this coming week. I pray, Lord, that you help us actively and purposefully care for others, no matter whether or not they believe what we believe. Let us find ways each day to show your love through our words and actions. I pray that you give us the strength, the courage, and the character to make this world a better place for everyone. Friends, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a very blessed week.